You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Tiffany's Take, where I answer your questions right here on the podcast. So if you want your question answered, just go to www.moneytalkwitht.com/ask Tiffany, and I'll be more than happy to answer for you. But for today's episode, nobody asked this question. I just wanted to go over some things since we are now in the new year. So I'm actually not going from any notes or anything. I'm just saying what is on my mind, what I am doing for this week. And, hopefully it gives you some inspiration for what you could be doing as well. So we are in 2024, y'all. Like, where did 2023 go? I feel like it was just January 2023, but here we are in January 2024. Now, as December 2023 was coming to an end, those couple of weeks between Christmas and Kwanzaa and New Year's, I had all of these grand aspirations about everything that I wanted to do, getting my life in order, creating goals, all these different things, right? As we usually do. But my body was wanting to do something else and it wanted to rest. And so I listened. And that's one thing that I plan on doing for this year, 2024, is listening more to my body, listening more to my inner guide, because I've noticed that when I do that, not only do things go good, I feel better. And one thing that I noticed, even in these few weeks of resting, I still have been able to pay my bills. That was one thing I was worried about. I'm like, well, Tiffany, if you take a break, if you're not working, you don't make money, that's the life of an entrepreneur. So you need to make sure you make money because the first is coming up, those types of things. But I ignored that. And I listened to my body and I was able to pay my bills. So sometimes we get into the cycle of doom and gloom. We think, well, if I rest, or well, if I do this, it's this or this. But sometimes it could be this and this. And that's another thing that I am kind of focusing on for this year. Not to think about things in the or, but think about things in the and. I can do this and I can do that, because, when we think in the or, sometimes if we don't do that thing, it kind of makes us down. And that's how I was feeling. But now that I'm on the other side of that, I'm like, that feeling wasn't warranted. Like, it didn't really need that space. I didn't need to feel that way. So that's one thing to think about. Also, this is a perfect time to look back at your previous year. I know I said this in an episode a few weeks ago when I was talking about year-end financial checklists. I'll make sure I'll link to that in the show notes. But look at your last year and don't just look at your financial stuff. Look at what are some things that you accomplished as a person? What are some things that your kids accomplished? Just think about all of those things and see, is this year going to be the year of doing more of something good, or is it going to be the year of doing less of something not so good? And for me, one thing that I do want to do less of is spend time on social media, honestly. Fourth quarter of last year, I started feeling really about social media. And that's a lot coming from me because, I built my entire brand from social media and I generally used to really love it. But recently I've just been feeling, meh about it. So for this year, I think I'm going to do a little less on social and just focus on a few platforms that really pay the best dividends for me. And that's one thing. Also, I wanted to mention in fourth quarter of 2023, I tracked my social media following. And so one thing that I learned is that I reached over 30,000 people across all platforms, which is awesome. Thank you so much for tapping into that. But also I realized that some platforms grew faster than others. Some I even lost followers, like TikTok, because I'm never on there. But then I also noticed that some platforms do better for me as a business owner than others too. So I plan on narrowing that focus because if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that I'm everywhere just because I used to love it so much. But now I'm going to just focus on a few key ones. So make sure that you follow me so you can keep up. Another thing that I plan on doing this week is tapping back into my budget. So I'll be real. The last couple of weeks of December, I hadn't been tracking anything. I kind of fell off the bandwagon doing the mental math thing, which I tell you all the time, don't do that. I found myself doing that the last couple of weeks. And so what I plan on doing probably today, actually, is tapping back into my budget and making sure that everything is still on the up and up, making sure I categorize everything from when I fell off, and to see if there's anything that I need to cut out. I love using the 1st of January. People are typically adding on new goals, adding on new activities, adding on new things, new year, new me. But for me, I use this time to cut out things, cut out things that no longer serve me, and then double up on things that do. So one thing I plan on doing is doing a subscription audit. So I've talked about these on the podcast before, but I know it's been a while. But just going through and seeing, what am I paying for? What do I need to be paying for? What can I let go? And I know on the business side, because also in fourth quarter, I did a lot of investing into my business in order to provide you all with more information. But I know that I'm paying for subscriptions that I don't need at this point, just because I was trying so many different things. So that's what I plan on doing in this week of the first week of January. I'm really going to dial back into my budget. Also, another thing that I'm actually doing today, so I took a break so I could record this episode, but I've been cleaning out my office and doing that for a couple of reasons. So first, I hired a VA in the fourth quarter, and she's been helping me out with my email. Shout out to Inbox Zero. But there's so much more that she could have been helping me with. And so I've been going through so I can send her, notes to put in the system and things like that. But that also helps me because I can get rid of all this paper. Y'all, I'm a notorious note taker. Anytime I have meetings or, I think about something, I always have to have, either a sticky note or a notepad or something nearby so I can jot it down as it comes, which I highly recommend doing. It really helps with the downloads, but it also creates a lot of paper. So my goal today is to really clean up all this paper, go through the notes, because what I've also noticed is throughout the year, I wrote down goals. Like, I guess as I was having conversations with different people, I write down what pops up. And what's interesting is I found multiple notes with the same goal on it. Now, I won't say what the goal is, but I've seen multiple notes with the same goal. So obviously, this is something that's important to me. So I say that to say, go back through any notes that you have, any conversations that you remember, and see what kept coming up, because that'll probably be your guiding light to what you need to do this year as well. Also, it will help me, cleaning my office will help me have a workspace more conducive to thinking. When your desk and everything is cluttered, when your house is cluttered, it really hurts the creative process. And I remember a few years ago, I was at a summit, and the speaker was like, if you declutter your home, you'll declutter your mind and you'll declutter your relationships. And that has spoke to me for so long. And honestly, last time I did a real deep declutter, I lost relationships that were no longer serving me, but I didn't realize they weren't. And so I was like, whoa, like this is that powerful. So I highly recommend, if you haven't already, as part of your New Year's, new traditions, whatever, is to start decluttering some things. I have so much stuff to give away. I can't wait to drop it off at my local nonprofit. And just be rid of it. And, I thought about, oh, well, I could sell this or I could sell that. But I'm like, you know what, Tiffany, have you sold it yet? You could have sold it a long time ago, but did you? No. So just go ahead and give it away to someone that could really use it and really need it. So that is another thing that I'm working on this week. So, with all that being said, I wish you all a wonderful new year in 2024. If you are setting goals and intentions, I did make a playlist just for you with all of my episodes from last January because I did a whole goal setting series. And so that list you'll find at moneytalkwitht.com/podcast. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see goal setting for 2024, and it's a whole playlist there for you. If you would like to get your finances in order, I've had a lot of people reaching out to me here lately, so I know it's top of mind for a lot of people. I'm absolutely still taking one-on-one counseling clients. You can find more information at moneytalkwitht.com/15-minute consultation. And I will actually have that link in the show notes as well if you didn't get that. So I appreciate you all listening. One other thing that I hit last year, speaking of stuff, over 100,000 downloads. I'm at about 105,000 now. So thank you so much. I appreciate you all for tuning in and listening in to me and my guests and just picking up these gems as we drop them. So I appreciate you. So like I said, Happy New Year, and make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. That helps other people find us. Bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.